Apple class. This afternoon I'm going to be reading your story for you, which is really exciting for me. So we are going to be reading Horrid Henry Meets the Queen. Some of you may have read this, some of you haven't, but enjoy. Perfect Peter bowed to himself in the mirror. Your Majesty, he said, pretending to present a bouquet. Welcome to our school, Your Majesty. My name is Peter, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty. Goodbye, Your Majesty. Slowly Peter retreated backwards, bowing and smiling. Oh, shut up, snarled Horrid Henry. He glared at Peter. If Peter said Your Majesty one more time, he would... Horrid Henry wasn't sure what he would do, but he knew it would be horrid. The real Queen was coming to Henry's school. The real live Queen. The real life Queen with her dogs and jewels and crowns and castles and beefeaters and knights and horses and ladies in waiting were coming to see the Tudor wall they had built. Yet, for some reason, Horrid Henry hadn't been asked to give the Queen the bouquet. Instead, the head, Miss Oddbod, had chosen Peter. Peter. Why, stupid, smelly, old, ugly toad Peter. It was so unfair. Just because Peter had more stars than anyone in the Good as Gold book, was that any reason to choose him? Henry should have been chosen. He would do a much better job than Peter anyway. Besides, he wanted to ask the Queen how many TVs she had. Now he would never get the chance. Your Majesty, said Peter, bowing. Your Majesty, mimicked Henry. Perfect Peter ignored him. He had been ignoring Henry a lot since he had been chosen to meet the Queen. Come to think of it, everyone had been ignoring Henry. Isn't it thrilling? Said Mum for the millionth time. Isn't it fantastic? Said Dad for the billionth time. No, Henry had said, who would want to hand some rotten flowers to a stupid Queen anyhow? Not Horrid Henry. He certainly didn't want to have his picture in the paper, and he didn't want anyone making a fuss of him. Bow, bouquet, answer her question and walk away, muttered Peter. And then he paused. Or is it bouquet and bow? Horrid Henry had just about enough of Peter showing off. You're doing it all wrong, said Henry. No, I'm not, said Peter. Yes, you are, said Henry. You're supposed to hold the bouquet up to her nose so she can sniff it before you give it to her. Perfect Peter paused. No, I'm not. Horrid Henry shook his head sadly. Think we'd better practice, he said. Pretend I'm the Queen. He picked up Peter's shiny silver crown covered in fool's jewels and put it on his head. Perfect Peter beamed. He had been begging Henry to practice with him all morning. Ask me a question that the Queen would ask, said Peter. Horrid Henry considered. Why are you a smelly little boy? Said the Queen, holding her nose. The Queen wouldn't ask that, gasped Perfect Peter. Yes, she would, said Henry. Wouldn't? Would. And I'm not smelly. Horrid Henry waved his hand in front of his face. Pooh, said the Queen. Take this smelly little boy off to the tower. Stop it, Henry, said Peter. Ask me a real question, like my name or what year I'm in. Why are you so ugly? Said the Queen. Mum, wailed Peter. Henry called me ugly and smelly. Don't be horrid, Henry, Mum shouted. Do you want me to practice with you or don't you? Hissed Henry. Practice, sniffed Peter. Well, go on then. Perfect Peter walked up to Henry and bowed. Wrong, said Henry. You don't bow to the Queen, you curtsy. Curtsy, said Peter. Miss Oddbod hasn't said anything about curtsying. But I'm a boy. The law has changed, said Henry. Everyone curtsies now. Peter hesitated. Are you sure? Yes, said Henry. And when you meet the Queen, you put your thumb on your nose and you wriggle your fingers, like this. Henry cocked a snook. Peter gasped. Miss Oddbod hadn't said anything about thumbs or noses. But that's rude, said Perfect Peter. Not to the Queen, said Henry. You can't just say hi to the Queen like she's a person. She's the Queen, There are specific rules, and if you get it wrong, she will chop your head off. Chop his head off? Miss Osborne hadn't said anything about chopping off heads. That's not true, said Peter. Yes, it is, said Henry. It isn't. Horrid Henry sighed. If you get it wrong, you'll be locked up in the tower, he said. It's high treason to greet the Queen the wrong way. Everyone knows that. Perfect Peter paused. Miss Osborne hadn't said anything about being locked in the tower. I don't believe you, said Peter. Henry shrugged. Okay, just don't blame me when your head gets chopped off. Come to think of it, thought Peter, there was a lot of head chopping when people met kings and queens, but surely that was in the olden days. Mum! Screamed Peter. Mum ran into the room. Henry said I had to curtsy to the Queen, wailed Peter, and I would get my head chopped off if I got it wrong. Mum glared at Henry. How could you be so horrid, Henry? Said Mum. Go to your room. Fine, screeched Henry. I'll practice with you, Peter, said Mum. Bow, bouquet, answer her question and walk away, Peter said, beaming. I'll leave it there for today. Right, I'll see you all soon. Bye.